Thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we do a roll call, I want to point out, it must be spring because Mr. Hallcroft is back.
And there he is in the back row. All right, roll call, please.
Lorraine is absent. Reed,
Present.
Mathis,
Here.
Krug is present. Kessler.
Here.
Gopal.
Here.
Tucker is absent. You have 5 members present.
Okay. To the people that are in the audience, this program is televised, and it's on channel 191 of Charter Communication. It'll come on for the next 2 weeks, and about every 4 hours, if you have Charter Communication, you can turn it on. If you don't see it, flick it again, and it comes on because the kids' basketball games and things are also on that station. If you'd like to come up, all I ask, give your name. You do not have to give your address. All right. Approval, excuse me, I'm going to be coughing. Approval of tonight's agenda. Are there any amendments to tonight's agenda? A motion is in order to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Included in the package are the minutes from March 18th. Excuse me. Regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions for the meeting minutes? All right, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Expenditures. Tom, did I get the pack of expenditures? Yep, I did. Are there any questions regarding any of these expenditures? That are in front of you? Okay. A motion is order to approve the expenditures totaling $383,304.12 for payment. I need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
I vote yes. Mathis.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker and Lorraine are both absent. Motion passes.
Okay. Public hearings, none. Reports. Are there any committee reports to be brought to the board? I do have one, and I can put it in at any time. But I got this today. Genesee County Road Commission will lift seasonal weight and speed restrictions on April the 8th. So if you're doing any building or construction or whatever, April the 8th, which would be Monday, next Monday. And there's no other reports? Okay, communications. There is a letter from Valerie McDonald. She gave us a thank you note, and then she, in return, sent us another thank you note. I hope you all have read it. Adoption of ordinances. Proposed update vehicle code ordinance. This is the second reading of the proposed ordinance to adopt the updated Michigan Vehicle Code and related status, and recommended. It was recommended by Jack Belzer. Jack, do you want to tell what it's in
What
regards
this
to?
is, periodically we re-adopt the motor vehicle code that the state has by reference. And you have to do that periodically to get all the updates, and there's been a couple of changes here in the recent past. And so this just updates everything, so the sheriff's department, when they're writing tickets, has all these options available to them.
And our sheriff, for the residents in the audience, our sheriff deputies will come in, plus also our attorney, and tell us what needs to be done. So there, we're current, and we are current in our ordinances. Is there any more discussion in regards to this? I need a motion to adopt ordinance number 61419 as presented.
So moved. Support.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mathis,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
I vote yes. Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker is absent, Lorraine is absent, Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Unfinished business. We need to schedule an election commission meeting for April the 15th. Clerk Krug, would you please explain?
Well, it's just the meeting that we're required to have to approve those individuals who'll be working the May 5th
May 7th.
election, or 7th, sometime in May. As the law says, the first Tuesday following the first Friday.
First Friday or first Monday?
Well, you have to have the election on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Following the first Friday.
See, it is
It
confusing.
just- oh,
All right, new business. This is 2019 local road projects. Operation Manager Tom Broker, would you like to explain that to the public, please?
Yes, okay. It's a memo in the packet. I think it hopefully explains it fairly well, but we have 3 proposals in the packet. Some paved aprons or asphalt approaches where we have unpaved roads connecting to paved roads. Odell Road at Linden, we did the south side of that intersection because it was in our old Lodomot area with CD funds. We're proposing to do the north side with township funds and allocation funds from the road commission, so we have it on both sides to help the traffic there. And then we're also looking at both sides of Linden Road on Ray Road. That is not only, we're able to use our allocation funds from the road commission, but because it's a boundary road, we would be splitting the cost with Mundy Township, and they are already on board with this as well. So those are the 3 projects we're looking at. Also in the packet is a chart of projects already approved, the projects we're looking at tonight, plus a couple more that we're still waiting for estimates on. The other news to report that I included in the memo is that HUD has redetermined or redrawn their low to moderate maps, and our section that we had eligible for CD funds is no longer. So the 3 projects we had 3 projects scheduled for using CDBG funds this year. The crack sealing on Jennings Road, the paving Old Linden Road at Thompson, the paved approach at Old Linden at Thompson, and then some culvert and ditching work on Fairbanks, Ray, and Odell. So the crack sealing on Jennings, the board's already approved that one, and I would suggest we leave it in place, just make it part of our budget, because I think that's gonna be important with the heavy traffic on that road. The other 2 projects, at this point, they're off the list. Those were just, oh, we need to use the funds, and that's not a bad use of them. But now, I don't think that they're a priority. I did include a copy of the new low to moderate map. We do have a new section that's eligible, and I think that's going to open up some opportunities for next year to do some road improvements there using the block grant money. So the bottom line is we've got the 3 approaches that total, our total cost is a little over $30,000. And the engineers looked at them, the road commissioners looked at them, and so they're recommended for approval.
So I just had a question, just a clarification. So those CDBG funds can only be used in those areas that they determine to be
Yes.
low to moderate income?
Other than, there are other ways to use it where you jump through some hoops. I mean, they're public service projects, but as far as road projects, you pretty much have to use it in a low moderate area.
So it has to be in that area on the map
Yes.
as designated?
So the
Yes.
deadline, so we already approved these, and then they changed the map,
Yes.
Yep.
Well,
And-
we approved the submission of the applications, yes.
but we had it, that was time sensitive, correct?
We've got 2 more years, but yes.
No, I just mean for the ones we did this year, under the old map.
Well, as of April 1st, the map is changed and they can't approve
So-
anything.
So now, the new map takes place, but now we're out of that window because the time has elapsed.
We can't, we'd have to have we could only have a hearing once a year according to the county. And because this area would not have been a topic of discussion for our previous hearing, we'd be
Right.
looking at a 2020 project.
Okay.
But I think it's gonna actually work out really well. I think we've already talked about a project I think would work really well. We'll have to have another public needs hearing in the fall, and then we can combine that with some allocation money out of next year's budget, and I think get a nice project done.
Are there any other questions from the board members in regards to this? All right, the next item is approval of the updated,
We got to vote.
oh, I'm sorry. All right, I need a motion to, Tom, now, are we going to adopt the new district, or what are we gonna do?
No,
Well, how do you want me to say
Just
it?
those
No,
three.
all we're doing is acting on the three projects.
To approve them, okay.
Yes.
All right, I need a motion to approve the following local road projects for 2019 as presented. Asphalt Approach, Odell Road at Linden Road, north side. Asphalt Approach, Ray Road at Linden Road, east side. Asphalt Approach, Ray Road at Linden Road, west side. Do I have a motion?
So,
Or so moved? Do I have a second?
I'll support it. Rob can move it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Gopel,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed,
Yes,
Kessler,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. And when we say about, to the public, that we call these aprons at the edges of the road, at the end of the road that comes to a regular cemented road or asphalt road. So you'll see that people will write them up as the aprons for Odell or Ray Road or whatever. Approval of the updated Freedom of Information Act documents. Tom, broker, operations manager, would you review this for us, please?
Yes, there in the packet are a couple of proposed updates to the Freedom of Information Act procedures and guidelines in our public summary. There were some minor changes to the FOIA Act, the Freedom of Information Act, late last year, and so these changes reflect that. Specifically, it more specifically requires requesters to give full name and address. And also, if there is a request that requires a 50% deposit because of the size of the request, that request is considered abandoned after 45 days. The reason for that is that every clerk in the state got a huge request last year, and that they're just kind of hanging out there.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they wanted,
From Emily.
Yes, from
from
Emily.
Emily,
Emily.
whoever that
Whoever Emily is.
was.
So this was a change to the law to kind of close that loophole so we don't get stuck holding on to a request indefinitely. If
Mhm.
we notify them that it's gonna cost, we estimate this is the cost, you have to give us half up front before we even start the work. After 45 days, if they haven't responded, then it's just considered abandoned. But the old law didn't have that, so we're just simply updating our internal documents to match the new law.
So what this means, if a person wants to come in and he wants some information in regards to some property or whatever, and it's gonna take time to get it. It's called Freedom of Information Act. You come in and request it, and Mr. Broker gets it, and there is a charge for copying the papers and the time the employee will take to get it all together. And then we have so many days that we have to have it ready for the people. Okay. All right, the very next item is,
Yep, gotta vote on it.
any board discussion in regards to that? A motion to adopt the following updated documents in compliance with the Michigan Freedom of Information Act as presented. The FOIA procedures and guidelines, the FOIA public summary. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kessler,
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed,
yes,
Lorraine is absent. Mathis,
Yes.
Tucker is absent. Gopel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Next item is request for the tentative approval of preliminary plat of Silver Landings Number 3. Operation Manager Tom Broker will explain this, and then I'm going to ask for public comment, and you will be able to come up and speak or ask questions in regards to that.
Okay, Silver Landings is a PUD project, and the last, my understanding is the last amendment to the conceptual plan was in 1999. The first two phases have been developed. They might not be fully built, but they're developed, they're platted, the platting process is approved. And so now the owner developer wants to proceed with the platting process for the third phase. And so the platting process has a certain number of steps that have to go through. One of them is called tentative approval of the preliminary plat. So that's what they're requesting at this point. It's a very early step in the platting process. The Planning Commission has reviewed it and recommended approval. Our zoning administrator is also recommending approval. There are still plenty of opportunities after that for the Planning Commission to review the site plan and make sure everything is in compliance. So this is, like I say, it's an early step in the process.
Mr. Crew doesn't sit on that board, but he was at that meeting, because this gentleman asked me if I was at the meeting. I said, no, I'm not real knowledgeable on it. Bob, can you give us some
I can relate
detail?
what was talked about. There was a lot of concern from the individuals that live around the next phase. And it was pointed out by the Planning Commission that this is just a further extension of the conceptual plan, that the developer would be obligated to follow any and all conditions, ordinances that exist. They discussed in length controlling water runoff. There was a lot of concern about an entry road and how that would affect. And the Planning Commission stressed to the people that, as Tom said, this is really the first step in many steps that will come in front of the Planning Commission for review and stipulations that will either affect or not affect the development and or the people, with the whole idea of making it a very win-win for the developer and the people that are presently there. So what we have to do as a board, if we so desire, is vote on it and let
Go back.
the process go. And what I mean by that, it goes back to the Planning Commission. So, and there will be public hearings and public input accepted at the Planning Commission level.
Okay.
And I probably missed some things, but that's all I remember, because as it said, it's very preliminary on the basis of what the end product will be.
Would anyone in the audience that has questions, would you like to come up and ask questions? And the developer here, and owner is here, Mr. Bacon, and he would be able to possibly answer some of your questions. But what Mr. Crew is saying, all it is tonight is we're just gonna pass it on for another step. And it's gonna take a while to have this, if totally approved. Would you like to come up? Oh, no, right here.
My name is Kathy Dexter. We built along the edge of this development 40 years ago. After we built, we were told that by the old-time residents around us, they were surprised it even perked because it stayed wet so long into the year. We built our house, backfilled some. Along comes my brother-in-law. He bought property from that's strip from Mr. Bacon way back in 96, 93, whatever. In 96, the DEQ turned down my brother-in-law's project for 10 houses because of the effect on the wetlands and the homes along the thing. When Mr. Bacon brought his first development paperwork in, at that time the DEQ had a change in membership. They said, well, it looks like it's less than 5 acres, it goes back to the township. They handle it, the township went ahead and approved that part of the center of this. The center of this phase encompasses, it says 10.88 open acres of space. That includes the spring-fed pond, acres of wetlands, and the Egyptian drain that runs through Fenton all the way over to Panema Lake. So anything it picks up out of that field from his phase 1 and phase 2 of it, it all ends up in Panema Lake. The property right now along the road is very wet. Tim Eiter, he's not here tonight. He lives right next to where the road will be. If the retaining pond that Melvin Kors built out there, dug out there when he was trying to develop it, if that's filled in, Tim goes underwater. I've got pictures from 1993 of the property next to Tim where the road goes in before Melvin dug the hole. And Tim, when he was here at the last meeting, he said right out, he goes, if they fill that in to put the road over it, I'm underwater. He goes, my sump pump runs constantly anyhow. You're also looking at it, the 7 houses surrounding this phase of it. At least 4 homes are senior citizens. We've been there a long time. We've worked, our homes are coming up paid off. These are our lifetime investments. And if we have to, we'll band together to legally get some, relief if something happens in this development that we go underwater again. There's an actual drain that's not on here that runs down between the 2 houses closest to the corner that actually goes across under Bennett Lake Road to the Tyrone Township side of Bennett Lake Road that had been a drain. When the corner was filled in, that was pretty much shut off. So the water has got to go somewhere. And all I can see is it coming up in our backyards. We still have, when it rains heavy, our sump pumps running. Our basements are dry right now, but the sump pumps are running from the water coming up underneath. And we're on the highest piece of property along Bennett Lake Road. I can just imagine what some of the other homes are doing with homes that are on lower property. And we haven't even got a hold of the people on the north side of the project that were there, that came with us here to shut down the Northern Windows man that was trying to build on
Jennings Road.
On Jennings Road, because he wanted a partial lot done, and it would have landlocked up where the part of the wetlands was.
That was turned down because of the wetlands?
Yeah, because he wanted just the better part out towards the road. It would have landlocked the property, and you guys told him no, that it couldn't be done. He had to take the whole thing. But there's also an AT&T building on that property also, but that's not involved in this one. This is the whole rest of the field. So, thank you. We will be on this all the way through it. The thing, when Mr. Korish's project was turned down, it was because the DEQ was brought in. They held their own meeting over here. The residents were notified, and we all showed up to see what was going on for sure, and then they investigated, and then they turned around and told Mr. Korish, I've still got the letter from it, that told Mr. Korish no, because of the impact on the wetlands and the homeowners, that you're not going to do it. And that was only 10 houses, and he's going for, 18? So, anyhow, just a tentative notice, since this is a tentative meeting, we're all gonna be on it, so, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? This is the time to do it. So you're telling us what your ideas are in regards to this project. Mr. Bacon, may I ask you a question? Yes. DEQ's been watching this property for years. I mean, when you started even building, they always did. Are they involved in this now? Or is it another few steps before they come in?
You already, if I answer that?
Yes, come on.
Interstate engineer.
Who is this?
David Wardine, Kieft Engineering. I'm the engineer on this project since the beginning.
All right, you're gonna have to speak a little louder, because I don't know if they're gonna hear you
Okay.
over there. Good.
When we did Phase 2, the wetlands and the drainage going into the wetlands and the site plans that we submitted previously were all part of the approval process when we went to the drain office. Because the actual wetlands area, that 10.8 acres, 88 acres of open space that she was referring to that showed on our plans, that is actually a detention basin that was put in or constructed basically by adding a weir on the Egyptian drain. So it stores about 7 inches of water during, I think, a 100-year storm, if I remember correctly. That was all approved by the drain office. In conjunction, when we were doing between the tentative and the final preliminary plat of Phase 2, we had a wetlands consultant go out and flag the wetlands. We tied them all in, and we applied for a permit to the DEQ to construct that weir, because that weir is actually within the wetlands. And there was 2 small pockets of fill that were less than 0.24 acres. The DEQ gave us a permit to follow this plan as we have presented it. It was issued in 2004 during our construction of Phase 2, and it expired December 31st of 2005, and we are now going to be, after tonight, we will be contacting another wetlands consultant and having it reflagged, and any disruption to the wetlands, et cetera, will have to be permitted once again, if we have any. And also part of this approval process, after we receive tentative preliminary plat approval, we have to send all these plans to the road commission again, the drain office again, the health department again, and go through that approval process all over again.
How long does that take? I mean, if the people,
It all depends.
yeah,
A good year.
so they're thinking of putting a weir?
No, the weir was installed as
The
part of
weir's
Phase 2.
already in.
Yeah, that was part of the Phase 2 approval process.
Okay,
Because that was the outlet for Phase 1 and Phase 2, and
Got
the
it.
Egyptian drain now, I think technically goes all the way over to the west side of Phase 2.
to the people in the audience, when they're doing something like this, and this gentleman is saying that it's being inspected and being reviewed and tested and all that, DEQ and DNR does all that work, and our hands are tied in regards to that. And so if it expired, but now it started up again for a permit in 2005?
It expired in 2005. It started in 2004.
Okay,
It expired in 2005. It was good for a year and a half, 18 months. And we were done with construction of Phase 2 at that point in time.
yeah,
The preliminary, or the final plat was signed, I think, in January of 2006. And then he started selling the lots, et cetera. The road construction was already done. And then the economy dropped out and everybody just stopped everything. So now we're reinitiating to finalize Phase 3, get the second entrance into the subdivision and construct the 18 lots. And we have to go through the entire process all over again.
All over
All the
again.
approvals with the DEQ and everybody else.
yes, yep. Is there any board member that would like to speak in regards to this? All right, I know you 2 people came, and then Kathy and her husband, but what he just told you is the process. And that's what we have to wing for, but we have to say, yes, go ahead and tell us DEQ if this is gonna be okay. That's how we have to do it. So if we vote tonight, yes, then it's going all the way back there. But we have ordinances, and Kathy, when you were talking in regards to these ordinances, I mean, not ordinances, but flooding and things like that, we have ordinances that you cannot put you cannot put your water from your eaves, whatever, onto another man's property. So the local government would stop that immediately. And then you told me the county drain commission, you showed me that, the green pipe. Yeah, and he's calling that I can't read it on this paper. He's calling that what drain?
That's the Egyptian drain.
The Egyptian drain?
That was just, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago redone because it was so, dirt bound and everything in the ditch by it.
Okay,
And that goes across under Jennings and it ends up in Lake Geneva.
okay. So, what we do now is just at least get it going for the people. It could be denied.
Yeah.
It could be denied, we don't know. You know, when you think of how many years that it was before, and there could be things because of development in that, it could be denied. But if you do it the right way, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yes,
Well, you have a variety of options. You don't have to approve it, of course. You can approve it or not. If you do give this tentative preliminary approval, you should, at a minimum, make it subject to any county, state regulations. Because once you give a tentative approval, that level of approval stays there.
okay, that makes sense.
So you're talking about these other things from the county, so you want to make sure that whatever approval you give, if you do that, it's, you don't have anything from your engineer indicating that this stuff was brought up.
Mm-mm.
So if you're gonna rely on the county and you do approve it and give this tentative approval, you wanna make it subject to all state and county approvals. DEQ changes from time to time, they have different rules in
That's true.
Lansing. This may or may not meet those requirements, so you don't wanna, not like they could go ahead, but you just don't wanna get yourself in a spot where you're jammed up. So if you do approve this tentative preliminary thing, plan that's presented, you wanna make it subject to all state, federal, and, county requirements.
Tom, do you want to, should we table this and bring this back?
We can amend.
Or
the-
you want to write up one
I've already
right now?
got, I've got the,
So this is going to protect what Mr. Belzer said. It's going to protect the residents, and it's going to protect the owner also.
so the motion would be to grant tentative approval for the preliminary plat of Silver Landings number 3, subject to the approval of all required county, state, and federal agencies as presented.
So
Very
moved.
good. Roll call, please.
Tucker and Lorraine are absent. Gopel?
Yes.
Kessler?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Mathis?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Motion passes.
It was good you people came in, because now we're going to be wording this the right way. The old literature wasn't right, because it has changed. So I have no idea when this will be brought back up, Tom, do you?
Like you
Goes,
said,
but it goes back to the planning.
Planning Commission will see it before the board sees it again, but they've got plenty of things to do before then, it looks like.
Okay. You could, yes, Kathy?
I was just wondering when it comes back to the other boards, will it be published in the paper to let us know ahead of time?
It's only published in the paper if it's required to be, but you can always check the agendas. The agendas are always posted on our website.
But the agenda for the planning commission,
All agendas are posted on our
yeah,
website.
is the one you want. So are you all right with that? Good, good. Is there any other questions in regards to this? All right, I'm going to carry on with the meeting. This is the proposed, okay, this is the proposed building inspector service agreement. STSA Construction LLC. Operation Manager Tom, would you explain?
Yes, back in the fall, the township entered into an agreement with Stuart
Thank you,
Worthing
Ken.
to provide contracted building inspection services. And he approached me recently and asked if the board would consider redoing the agreement in his business name rather than him as an individual. I think just for tax purposes, that works better for him. And so I talked to Jack, and he said there really is no issue with that concept. So the proposed agreement that's drafted is identical to what was already approved, other than it's STSA Construction LLC instead of Stuart Worthing. And we've also added a provision to terminate the old agreement.
Okay. Any board discussion?
I had a couple of questions on
Okay.
this. I see that we're doing the agreement, switching it to an LLC, but that wouldn't preclude Mr. Worthing from hiring someone under his LLC and having that other person do the work. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So do we need to tighten up the language just to make sure all the qualifications would also extend to any employee that he hires?
Absolutely.
That would be appropriate, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, they are required, I mean, somebody doing that type of work has licensing requirements, but that would be a good idea to,
So we just, for this agreement, then we write that in that agreement?
yes.
Okay. So we should table it and let Tom bring this up as a written agreement, and then we'll get with Stuart.
We can do that.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to go ahead, though, and approve this?
You just tabled it.
Yeah, you
All right, I'm
just
gonna
did.
table, all right. All right, now, Mr. Tucker isn't here, and this is Law Day coming up. And we have two attorneys here. So, would one of you like to just read this statement in regards to what it's all about?
Jack is.
Sure.
Sure.
Go for it, Jack.
Law Day, which,
Law Day Proclamation.
okay, I get it already.
Free speech, free press, free society. Whereas Law Day is a public acknowledgement of our nation and our state's heritage of justice, liberty, and equality under the law, and whereas the United States Congress has statutorily designated May 1st as the annual day for commemoration of Law Day, and whereas the American Bar Association has declared 2019 Law Day theme to be free speech, free press, free society, and whereas this year's theme recognizes the freedom of speech and the press as an important foundation for a free society, and whereas free speech, free press, free society allows us an opportunity to reflect on these fundamental protections established by our founding fathers in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, and whereas Robert N. Carlson, president of the American Bar Association, has declared that this year's theme invites us to reflect on freedom of speech and freedom of the press as cornerstones of our free society, ones that respect the dignity of the individual and truly free society. Now therefore be it resolved, the Township Board of the Charter Township of Fenton does hereby proclaim May 1st, 2019 as Law Day. We urge the people of Fenton Township and all of Genesee County to acknowledge the importance of our legal and judicial systems with appropriate ceremonies and activities, and to display the flags of the United States and the state of Michigan in support of this educational observance. We further encourage schools, businesses, media, religious institutions, civic and service organizations to join the members of the bar and bench in commemorating Law Day.
All right, I know there's no board discussion, but is there board?
I missed some of that, Jack.
Yeah.
Could you read it again?
And Clerk Krug was supposed to read it as a resolution, but
I'll
Mr.
move that resolution.
Yes, we're not gonna read it again, thank
I will
you.
support the resolution.
A motion to adopt the number
Already
2000,
got you.
pardon me?
We already did.
You already did it,
Yeah.
okay.
Do the vote.
And you
Do a
did
roll
roll call.
No.
No, we need.
You need roll call, yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine and Tucker absent. Mathis.
Yes,
Resolution passes.
okay. Board comments. Are there any comments from the members of the board?